If you're a grown adult and your life still collapses by Tuesday, it's not lack of discipline, it's a broken system. You've done the same cycle for years. Sunday night, you swear you'll start fresh. Meal plan, clean desk, new to-do list. Then Monday hits, work stress piles up, your phone buzzes, and suddenly it's 11:47 p.m. again. You didn't rest, you escaped. And the worst part, you start calling yourself lazy, like you're the problem. No, the problem is you keep waiting to feel motivated. Motivation doesn't show up for mortgages, kids, aging parents, or burnout. It shows up when life is easy, which is never. So tonight, stop negotiating. Pick one small action and do it for 30 minutes. If you're done making excuses, comment 1 right now. And here's the brutal truth that hits most middle-aged Americans the hardest. You keep waiting for motivation like it's coming to rescue you. Like one day you'll wake up lighter, calmer, energized, and then you'll finally do what you said you'd do. But motivation doesn't show up when your back hurts. It doesn't show up when your inbox is screaming, your kids need you, your bills are due, and your mind is already exhausted before lunch. That's why you keep losing the same battle. Because when you run on motivation, you're building your life on weather. Some days it's sunny, most days it's not. And every time you don't follow through, something gets worse than your schedule, your trust in yourself. You start hearing that quiet, poisonous voice. Here we go again. You always quit. You don't have it in you. That voice doesn't just steal your time, it steals your identity. So no, you don't need a bigger plan. You need a system that works even when you feel nothing. A system that starts small, starts now, and doesn't ask for permission from your mood. Because the real flex at 40 plus isn't intensity, it's consistency when life is heavy. And that's exactly where Evan was, stuck in that slow, silent collapse that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. To everyone else, he looked fine. He still showed up, still smiled, still joked in the hallway like nothing was wrong. But inside, he was bleeding time. Deadlines started slipping, not because he didn't care, but because he kept waiting for the right moment to begin. A quiz he should have crushed came back average. A paper he could have written with pride got turned in late and rushed. And the most dangerous part? He didn't panic. He rationalized. He started doing what tired adults do too, calculating how much he could afford to lose and still survive. How many points to still pass. How little effort to still keep the image. Because surviving feels easier than facing the truth. Every night he told himself the same soft lie. Next week will be different. When things calm down, I'll lock in. Once I feel motivated, I'll start. But next week never comes. Life doesn't get lighter, it gets louder. And Evan was learning the hardest lesson. If you don't choose a system, your stress will choose one for you. And then there was Miles. He wasn't louder than Evan. He wasn't smarter in a way you could point to. He didn't talk about hustle, didn't preach discipline, didn't post quotes like a life coach. He just had this annoying, calm routine. Every night, same time, Miles would sit down at his desk. No dramatic setup, no perfect mood, no waiting for the stars to align. Just sit, start, work. Evan noticed it the way you notice someone drinking water while you're dehydrated. Quietly, painfully, and a little bit angry. Because Miles didn't look motivated. He looked committed. While Evan was building plans, Miles was building proof. While Evan was negotiating with his feelings, Miles was moving forward without asking permission. And the worst part? Miles didn't even seem to struggle. Not because life was easier for him, but because he wasn't fighting himself every night. That's what shook Evan. He realized procrastination wasn't stealing his time first. It was stealing his confidence. Because every time Miles sat down, he voted for the kind of man he wanted to be. And every time Evan didn't, he voted against himself. And then came the economics exam, the moment Evan couldn't talk his way out of. He told himself he was ready. He even started early, 4 days. But those 4 days weren't real studying. They were stress dressed up as effort. He'd sit down with his notes and feel that tight pressure in his chest, the fear of realizing how behind he really was. So he'd reach for his phone, just to calm down. A quick scroll to take the edge off. A video, a headline, a message, another scroll. Minutes vanished, like someone was stealing them. By the last night, panic took over. He promised himself no phone, early sleep, one final review. At 10:30 p.m., he picked up his phone for 1 minute. At 1:17 a.m., the screen was still glowing, his eyes burning, his mind hollow. The next morning in the exam room, the air felt heavier. Question 1 stared back at him, something he knew he had seen. But his brain reached for the answer and grabbed nothing. That's a special kind of terror, when you realize you didn't just waste time, you wasted trust in yourself. Evan walked out with a passing score, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a warning. Because the real pain wasn't the grade, it was the moment he realized something uglier. He wasn't losing because he was dumb. He was losing because he couldn't repeat the right actions when nobody was watching. That's the difference between potential and results. Not talent, not intelligence, not better tricks. Repetition. The unglamorous, quiet kind, when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you don't feel like it. And that's where most people fold, because they keep treating discipline like a mood. But you, if you're listening right now, you're not here for motivation. You're here because you're the kind of person who can face the truth and fix the system. So take this like a leader, not like a victim. Don't ask, how do I feel today? Ask, what do I repeat today? Small, consistent, non-negotiable. And if that line hits you, if you're done living on next week, drop a quiet 1 in the comments. Not for me, for you. A signal that you're stepping back into control. That night, Evan didn't go back to his room to reset with another perfect plan. He went to the library. Not because he suddenly felt disciplined, but because he was tired of hearing his own excuses echo in his head. He found a corner table under a tired yellow lamp, the kind that makes everything look honest. His phone sat in his pocket like a loaded weapon. That's when an older man approached. Quiet steps, steady presence. The librarian, Mr. Caldwell. He didn't lecture, didn't smile like a motivational speaker. He just looked at Evan and asked almost gently, "How'd it go?" Evan swallowed. His throat tightened. He said, "I passed." Then, barely louder, "Barely." Mr. Caldwell nodded like he'd heard that word ruin people before. And in that silence, Evan felt something shift, like for the first time, someone wasn't judging him. They were seeing him. Mr. Caldwell reached into his bag and pulled out a small, worn notebook. The corners were soft, like it had been carried through years of hard seasons. He opened it, and Evan expected paragraphs, advice, some complicated method. Instead, he saw 1 sentence per day. That's it. No inspirational quotes, no long reflections, just proof. Read 30 minutes. Finished the outline. Stopped when I said I would stop. Evan blinked. That doesn't look like much. Mr. Caldwell nodded. Good, because your problem isn't effort, it's noise. Then he tapped the page, slow and deliberate. Your mind is crowded because you keep making promises you don't keep, he said, so your brain stays loud, arguing with itself. He slid the notebook toward Evan. This is how you clear it, he whispered. 1 action, 1 finish line, 1 line of truth. Mr. Caldwell closed the notebook and looked Evan straight in the eye, calm, almost surgical. People think discipline is a big moment, a breakthrough, a dramatic decision. Then he picked up a piece of frayed rope from the library's old supply cart, thin strands twisted together. This, he said, is how it actually works. Discipline isn't one thick chain, it's hundreds of small threads, twisted day after day. Evan stared, feeling his chest tighten. The day you slip, Mr. Caldwell continued, the rope doesn't disappear, but you don't get to pretend it didn't happen either. He placed the rope down gently, like a warning and a promise. The nights you don't feel like it, he said softly, are the nights the rope gets thicker. And if you understand that, if you're the kind of person who leads yourself instead of begging for motivation, drop a quiet 1 in the comments. Not for attention, as a marker. I'm building the rope. That night, Evan didn't go home and make another beautiful plan.
He went home and made one decision. At 7 p.m., he sat at his desk. No ceremony, no hype. His phone went across the room like it was a temptation he finally stopped negotiating with. He set a timer, 30 minutes. The first 10 felt unbearable. His mind screamed for distraction, anything to escape the discomfort of starting. But he stayed, not because he felt strong, because he chose not to move. When the timer ended, he stopped exactly when he said he would. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something rare. Peace. Not the soft peace of avoidance, the hard peace of keeping his word. He opened a cheap notebook and wrote one line. Read 30 minutes, stopped when I said I would stop. It wasn't impressive, it wasn't dramatic, but it was real. And real is what changes a life. By the end of that week, Evan didn't feel motivated. He felt quiet. Because the noise in his head wasn't anxiety, it was broken promises arguing with each other. And every time he kept one small promise, that argument got weaker. The rope got thicker. He didn't become a different man overnight. He became a man he could trust. And that's the real lesson. You don't clear your mind by thinking harder. You clear it by stopping the daily betrayals, the tiny moments where you say, I'll do it, then disappear into distraction.